What is up, everybody? Welcome back. I hope you're having a great day. This will be episode 25. How about that? How many more episodes? I don't know, but we're getting closer and closer to the finish line. Let's not quit before we are done. In this episode, we will add the AoE damage to bombs and fix some constant values. But before we get into it, please subscribe and like this video if you enjoyed this tutorial. I would very much appreciate it. Thank you. But now, let's get going. Let's take a quick look at the current state of the game and where we left off. So our archer can shoot arrows, which is great. And the arrows are pointing in the direction we're shooting. Perfect. But what about our cannons? Our cannons are shooting the wizard attack. That's wrong. So I guess the wizard is shooting the bombs. Okay. So that's what we're going to fix today. We're going to start out with the cannons to make sure that they can shoot cannonballs and that the cannonballs explode on impact. So let's get that going. Let's fix so that the cannons shoot bombs and the wizards shoot chains. And the reason why that happens is because arrow, bomb and chains in this order here for our constant class and projectiles. But if we take a look at the very sprite atlas, it's arrow, chains, bomb. So we just need to change the values for bomb and chains and we should be good to go. So bomb should be 2, chains should be 1. And then just move it down here so it looks a little bit better. Like so. And try it now and let's see if that does the trick. They're shooting bombs, wizards are shooting chains. Alright, good. If we take a look at how the projectiles are being drawn, the cannonballs, they are getting rotated and we don't want any rotation to be done for the cannonballs and neither for the wizards chains, even if it's harder to see. So we're going to remove the rotation and translation on the cannonballs and the chains. So let's begin by doing that. And if we're dealing with a cannonball or a chain, then we don't need to do this section right here. That's only for arrows. But we still need to give projectiles a rotation. So let's just set float rotate equals 0 to initiate it. Remove it there. If type equals arrow, then we do all of this. Else it's going to be 0, so we don't need to do any rotation. So if it's an arrow, we do the calculations. If it's not, then we just set rotate to 0 and pass it in. But whenever we are drawing the projectile, we shouldn't do any of this. So we should just ignore that if it's not an arrow. So we check here as well. If p.get projectile type equals arrow, then we do all of this. Else there is no arrow, there's a bomb or a chain. Then we take just this section right here, place it there, and we need the positions. We copy that like so. And we need to cast these into integers again. I think that is correct. Hopefully. We still get the correct image, position, yeah. Let's give that a go. So start with cannonball, should be no rotation. And there is none. Perfect, but he's shooting from the bottom right. Huh. Why is that? Well, it only looks like he's shooting from the bottom right, but actually he's not. Remember that the bomb is actually 32 by 32. So the top left corner of the bomb sprite is in the center of the cannon. So let's try this. Minus 16 here as well. To see what we get. I think it's going to look better. And it's actually going to be when the bomb visually hits an enemy when it despawns. Yeah. Let's see if one of these hits. These should hit. Yeah, I think that is better. So the position of the bomb isn't changed, just that we draw it a little bit to the left and upwards. Let's try the wizards as well. Alright, that looks good. So next up, let's work on the bomb. Whenever it hits an enemy, it explodes and deals some AoE damage. That's gonna be fun to implement. So let's work on that. And for us to have some sort of explosion going, we're going to need the explosion graphics that I made a long time ago. So hopefully it's gonna look alright, but there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 images we're gonna need to import. So let's go to the top of our projectile manager and under import images, import explosion. Actually, let's take it and place it inside our import images, because no reason for us to create yet another atlas, so we can use this one. And let's just pass atlas in here and then create it. And first we're going to need an array, of course, so let's just make another one. Explo images. Alright, that's good enough. We set the size equals new buffered image 7, right? Yeah. And for int I equals 0, I is less than 7, I plus plus. Explo images I equals. Now let's see where we need to start. So x will be 0 to start, that's easy, then y will be 2. Alright. So x will simply be I times 32. And y will be 64, or 32 times 2, if you will. So now that we have the images, let's just make sure it works. So let's go to our draw. For int I equals 0, I is less than explo images dot length I plus plus. We copy this line right here. Draw images. No, not that one. Explo. And we pass in I. For position, let's say 300, 300, but plus I times 32. So now they will be displayed in a row at 300, 300. All right, so we have all of the images in. Perfect. Now we can start using them in an explosion. To get this working properly, we'll take it step by step. So let's just get a explosion going as soon as the projectile is set to false. So we check here in our update if p.get projection type equals bomb. Then we say draw bomb equals true. So we take this boolean and place it up here. Private boolean draw bomb. And we will need a private int bomb tick for switching between the animations. So we're going to copy that. But here, draw bomb true. Where do we have the draw? Here we have the draw. After the projectiles, we draw bomb, G2D, create the method, and in here, if draw bomb, then we draw it. And here we simply g2d.draw image, and we need just x, y, and observer like that, and the image will be explo, right? Images, bomb index. We need another one, apparently, and we get the bomb pos dot x and bomb pos dot y. And we're gonna make those two variables up here. So bomb tick and bomb index, as well as private point to d float bomb pos. And whenever we set the draw bomb to true, we also set the bomb position to p.getPos. And it's not actually bomb, it's, let's change the names here, my bad, refractor rename explotick, and so refractor rename exploindex, as well as refractor rename explopos, because it's not going to be a bomb, it's going to be an explosion, so that makes more sense in the names. And it's not draw bomb, it's draw explode. And down here we need to cast those over to integers. So the arrow goes away, and I think we can actually do it like so. And now we just need to increase our explosion index in our update method, I think. So we have the projectiles, if draw explosion. If we don't need to draw it, then what's the point of updating it? We say explotick plus plus. If explotick is larger or equal to, let's say 12. Updates are 60. That's 5 images per second, if my math is correct. If that's the case, explotick equals 0, exploindex plus plus. If exploindex is larger or equal to 7, exploindex equals 0, and we also need to, like so. And we also need to say draw explo equals false. So then we're done with the explosion. So let's not draw it anymore. So let's just start and see how it looks. We will have some funny results, but that's all right. We got an explosion, but it moves around to the last position where the last projectile got set to inactive. So how do we have more than one explosion? Well, I think we're going to add an inner class to this projectile manager. I think that's going to be much easier to work with. So let's do that. And the reason why I mention a inner class and not just a new object or a new class in one of the packages is because I don't think we're going to use that class anywhere else but inside here. And it's very, very specific to this project manager. So at the bottom we say public class, and let's find a good name. Let's call it explosion. Simple, and we know what it does. And let's create the constructor, so public explosion, so, and it will take in a few values. We need a position, so we can just say point to d.floatPos. We don't need to give it any images. We got that in our projectile manager. We just need the position and the explosion tick and the explosion index. So let's create that. First we go private point to d.floatPos. Then we need a private int explotick and exploindex. And this.pos equals pos. Let's set them both to 0 so we don't get any weird errors. We will need a public void update. And we will need a public point to d.float get pos return pos. We also need a public int get index return explo index. And our update method here will do the exact same thing as this, but copy this section here and paste it, but we will remove draw explode and draw explode. And we will remove that one. And instead of using a boolean, we can just remove this, and in case explode index is 7 or larger, then we just don't draw it. So let's just remove these variables, and we will add a private array list of explosions. Maybe I need an X as well. It equals new array list. Like so. And in our update method here, if it's a bomb, we can remove this and simply explosions.add new explosion. It takes a b.getPos, so now we have a new explosion. And this section right here, let's remove that. But for explosion, explosions, e.update. So now we update the explosions. Now we just need to draw them. So instead of calling this draw bomb, draw explosions. That's that in. And we can remove, let's just remove all of it. For explosion E, explosions. If e.getIndex is less than 7, then we want to draw it. So g2d.drawImage. We'll use that one. We need the image, which is explo images, and we will take e.getIndex. Position will be e.getPos.x and e.getPos.y. And we will cast these over to integers like before. Like so, and save. I think we can remove those brackets. Looks a little bit cleaner. And if everything is working as they should, we should be able to have a lot more explosion going. So let's try it. All right, we have a lot more explosions. Let's take a look over here. Yeah, so the position of the explosion is a little bit off. Let's try that again, but from a better angle to see exactly how. So they're spawning correct, but the explosion is happening. Yeah, all right. So the explosion needs to be up and to the left. So let's try 16 here, as well as 16 there. I think that is going to be correct because we do that same over here. So let's take a look. So the explosion should just take, yeah, that looks much better. Perfect. So the explosions are happening as they should. All we have to do now is to change the speed of the cannon and also add AoE damage. So let's get the AoE damage first. So first we're gonna need the position of all the enemies and then check whether or not the enemy is close enough to the bomb in order to damage the enemy. So where we create our explosion, we also call a function called explode on enemy. I think it's good enough. And we will pass in the projectile's position, or the bomb's position rather. Create that one. And in here we want to loop through the enemy list. We can just copy this one. So we're gonna need a radius for our explosion, and let's just create it. Float radius. We have no constant value for this variable, so let's just set 32 is the size of a tile. So let's start with 40. 40 for the radius, so it's 40 to the left and 40 to the right, so the diameter of the explosion will be 80 floats. So we need to think about every time we apply this, it's the double, because it's the radius, not the diameter. And what we want to do now is to check whether or not the enemy is closer than 40 pixels to the explosion. So let's create a float real dist, or we could call it hypotenuse. I think you call it in English if the pronunciation is correct. But we want to check if the real distance is less than 40. And we get that from float x dist equals math.abs p.get pos.x minus e.get x, right? Oh, x. Y distance equals math.abs p.get pos.y minus e.get y. So now we have the x distance and y distance between them. We can move this actually. And then we apply math.x dist, x dist, y dist, and we should get the real distance. But we're gonna cast this over to float because it returns a double. And now when we have the real distance, we check if real dist is less than radius, or let's say less or equal to radius. So if it's 40, then it's true as well. Then we want to damage the enemy, and we say e.hurt p.get damage. And I think this is going to be good enough. Oh, we also need to check if e dot is alive, then we do all of this. Otherwise we get some issues, and I see that we forgot when we was checking for projectile hitting enemy. We check if e dot is alive before we do anything. If it's not alive, why would we check for bounce? That's just stupido. Explosion update. We can add one for this as well. If e dot get index is less than 7, update. We don't want to update the explosion if the index is 7 or more. So I think the explosion is going to work. So let's try it. We can start here. Let's see if we did a lot of damage to everyone at the same time. Perfect. Let's change the speed, or the cooldown. Let's change the cooldown for our towers. Default cooldown, cannon should be very slow, so let's go 50, archer 25, wizard 40. But we want the speed changed as well, so arrow should be the fastest, so let's say 8, bomb 4, change 6. Let's see what that does. Let's try the bomb, but let's play the bomb, or the cannon rather, not the bomb. Let's see what happens. 2 hits is a bit much. 25 damage is a bit high, so let's go 15. Arrows 5, wizard just 2. Or actually, let's go for 0. It's not actually supposed to damage the enemy, it's just supposed to slow it. So I think this might be a little bit more close to what we want. So this is something you're going to have to play around with a lot to find something that is a good balance. And trying to find balance in a game is quite difficult. But he is shooting way too fast in my opinion. So let's go 60 is 1, so 120, 1 every other second. Because he's supposed to do slow damage, but to a lot of people, or a lot of enemies. Yeah, that looks better. Let's check the arrow. It's going faster, but it's low damage and can hit everything. Yeah, I think that's good for now. And this is where the episode ends. I think we can work on the wizard next episode to apply effects to the enemies such as slows. I want to thank you for watching, and don't forget to hit the like button if this episode taught you anything, and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. But until the next update, I wish you all to have a great day, and I also hope to see you in the next episode. Take care now. Bye.